Drummer here.
All right, we're back with another very special edition for you. Special guest is an award winning, world renowned drummer, lead vocalist, songwriter, so much more of the mighty Triumph. Please welcome Gil Moore.
Hey
Gil,
Jay, nice to be here.
greetings. Always good to see you. Celebrating Magic Power, an all star tribute to Triumph. Long time coming, man. What an incredible catalog the band has, of course, formed in 75. I mean, we're talking about 16 albums and DVDs, 18 gold, 9 platinum awards in Canada and US, multiple Juno Awards, Group of the Year, Canadian Industry Hall of Fame, Walk of Fame, and more. At the time when you guys came out, I was in Bellingham, right in between Seattle and Vancouver. So I'd be listening to Vancouver radio, going to the shops in British Columbia, and I noticed this incredible band. We're going to go through the catalog and talk about the tracks on the tribute album, and more importantly, the Triumph catalog. Of course, your debut album it came out simply called Triumph. 75. It was 24 hours a day is the intro to the tribute album, but we go right into Rock and Roll Machine, which caught my eye looking in the racks. You had the pyro, the lighting, the imagery that Triumph is known for. And of course, on this album, Sebastian Bach does the title track, Rock and Roll Machine. Talk about the mood in the band as you get past your debut. Now you're making your sophomore album, which eventually gets picked up by RCA. And you guys are going to town. You're putting on bigger shows, and you're on fire. What was the mood in the band?
Well, we were three young musketeers, and you come out of your bands that all musicians go through, like I call them your kids' bands or your bands that, bomb out, playing in church basements and stuff like that. And then,
Yeah.
with Triumph, it was, we had the bull by the horns and we knew it. And you just feel lucky, because it's like, oh man, I never thought this would happen. We're actually people like us, and we're gonna get a record deal, and all these things start happening that you always hope would happen, but feared would never happen, like most bands. So the atmosphere is pretty, high spirited. We approached it almost like a sports team because there was three guys and we had this whole idea of having a high energy show, and we wanted it to be very theatrical with lighting and effects and stuff as well. So it was always kind of like go, go, go. We had transitions between each song. We didn't stop between songs. So it was very physically demanding. And so yeah, our attitude out there was a little bit like yeah, almost like a sports team, if you will, trying to compete. But it was, of course, all about the songs and the music.
I'm sorry.
You there, Jay? I lost you.
Coming right back in. Gil, you progressed, with your originals, but also the Rock and Roll Machine album was known for your first hit, a cover of the Joe Walsh Barnstorm classic Rocky Mountain Way. Obviously, playing the clubs, one often plays a lot of covers. Was this one of your more popular covers? Why the decision to include this on the album?
Yeah, we did play it a little bit in rehearsals and things like that. I don't know that we played it in the very first, clubs and high schools we played, but you may be right that it could have come in that early along, and it was just a track that really kind of just rocked out one day. We just jammed it at rehearsal and decided, you know what? A heavier version. We love Joe's version, don't get me wrong, but we thought there's a heavier version to be had with that big guitar riff. And so, Rick really ratcheted that thing up. And we also changed the tempo a little bit to make it more I'll call it more plodding or more yeah, heavier, I guess I'd say. So and we got a lot of great reaction to that song. Became a staple in our live sets.
Yes. And we progress into the next album, which was the big breakthrough for you guys, Just a Game, 1979. Obviously, we're now distributed in Canada and the US. RCA is behind you in a big way. Recorded at Sound Interchange Studios, Toronto, and Metalworks. Your proud studio now, Mike Levine producing. Talk about going into this. Obviously, on the tribute album, Dee Snider tackles Lay It on the Line, the big breakthrough hit. And of course, Hold On was also on this record. Jeff Keith of Tesla performs on the tribute. Talk about the increased confidence you have now going into Just a Game and having U.S. shows and a broader fan base.
Yeah, I mean, by just a game, it was a whole different deal because we had, two records out of the gate, and we were getting, you know, into the concert market, and really felt like the band was, had taken flight, so to speak. We were across the border into the USA, which was a huge goal that we had. Like all Canadian bands have a goal of, getting into America. And radio was we knew it wasn't a matter of, if they were going to play the record. It was kind of, how much are they going to play the record? And so a lot of anticipation of good things to come. Like it was a really a great time. And and we were still a very young band, so there was just like that sort of unbridled, energy, and lots of Spinal Tap moments when we started out that were fun, that kept us laughing a lot. So it was a really good period for Triumph.
Yes. And talk about the writing of these songs, Hold On and Lay It on the Line. How did they come together?
Well, those two songs in particular, Rick wrote them from soup to nuts, and he brought them into rehearsals. I remember the day we played "Lay It on the Line" for the first time. It took us like 5 minutes to learn it. It was so well constructed uh, in advance that Rick had done his homework on that one. And it's kind of like, hey guys, what do you think of this song? And this is how every song starts. If he's written it on guitar, and we're not jamming a riff first. So the ones where he had written it on guitar first, this being one of them, it's like, I got a song. It goes like this, and it, Mike and I just went, yeah, that's it. And it took us very, very little time to play it. Hold On was similar in that Rick wrote it and had it all completed on guitar, but we really struggled with the arrangement, getting it, rhythmically where we wanted it, and I guess the layout. I can't really remember the details other than as much as Lay It on the Line was super easy for us to get it sounding good. It took us quite a while and Hold On, but it's really nice where it landed. And up here in Canada, we just Rick just re-recorded it with some music students and a high school choir and some music teachers for an event called Music Monday, run by the Coalition of Music Education in Canada. We had over 200,000 music students across Canada 3 weeks ago singing that very song, the new version, the old version, kind of combined uh, from coast to coast. So it was all at the same time at lunchtime on Music Monday. It was pretty exciting evolution of that song.
That's amazing. Hold On hit number 38 on the Billboard Hot 100, 33 in Canada. You guys are off and running famously. We heard about the San Antonio show where Sammy Hagar had to pull out on short notice, and you guys get the call. Can you make it to San Antonio and fill in? And here's your essentially your first arena headline show in North America. What was that like?
Well, we weren't really ready for that kind of a break when it came, but it was a leapfrog moment forward. And we always had a take no prisoners approach. Like go big or go home. Here's your chance. You can either, choke your guts out and make a mess of it, or drive it over the goal line. So as it turned out, it was fantastic. I mean, the fans in Texas were deep into the music, and they were singing along with us. They were standing on their feet and cheering, and it made Texas feel like a second home. And of course, that was part of what made things spread in America, because the promoters were like, "Oh well, we got to go play Dallas. We got to go play, the secondary markets, the Amarillos and Wichita Falls and Corpus Christi," and away we went. And it's great memories down there. I love the Texas people, and love the whole vibe in Texas. Actually, is really cool. It's a special place in our history, that's for sure.
Well, I always say California and Texas are more like countries rather than just states. They're so vast, so big. Both states have incredible music history. And I lived in Texas growing up. I first started playing guitar professionally in Lubbock, but all those cities, like you say, there's enough major markets just in Texas to justify it as a country. And your songs, of course, on the album, Moving On, Young Enough to Cry, and American Girls. What inspired a tribute to the females south of the border?
To your point about Texas could be its own country and so could California. I'll add to that. Like I've said this in interviews before, and I think a lot of Canadians don't really know the USA well because they haven't traveled through all the states. And I've often said it's like 50 countries. It's always great folks, but everything's a little different, whether it's, the food or the culture, or, the various, accents, which Rick and I got good at impersonating for fun. And it was great, traveling through America, meeting all the people. Yeah, California and Florida and Texas, of course, being really big states, but a lot of the other, the smaller states too, like they have their own special signature. That's really great. And I traveled a lot by car,
Yeah.
just for that reason. That Mike liked to fly all the time, and Rick would some 50% of the time travel with Mike, and the other 50 travel with me by car as much as possible. And that was just to meet the people, see the land, and experience, each state.
Well, you come out March 1980. You've got your fourth studio album, Progressions of Power, Phase One Studios, Toronto. You guys are now self produced. Obviously, I Live for the Weekend. It's the lead off track. And on the tribute album, we have that one uh, done. Who is the singer on that? That is, oh, Dorothy. Dorothy is singing that one with some help. And Progressions of Power, like we say, followed it up. I Can't Survive hit number 91 on the Billboard 100, and the album reached number 32. I Live for the Weekend, though not a huge success in your own home country, gave another charting single in the UK. So you're opening up new markets. Now, it seemed in a little way that Just a Game had more radio hits on it than Progressions of Power. What were you guys feeling as far as once you put it out? Was it the step forward you wanted?
Well, we were never a hit singles band, we were always, I don't know if the term now is apropos, but an album band, or an AOR band.
Yeah.
And so we didn't ever really think that we were going to get, top 40 hits. We were hoping people would get into our albums, into the deeper cuts, and that tended to be what happened. Now, on the other hand, we had some songs that you mentioned that did make it in the top 40, space, I guess. But most of our hits were on FM radio, and those hits, are kind of what form part of the live performances and what the fans want to hear. So you have songs that were never released as singles that are still staples in kind of the Triumph Arsenal or our set list favorites, I'll say.
Yeah, well, it was certainly a major album for you guys. You're doing now bigger markets, more headline shows. You're continuing to work out your production and all that. And as you spoke about Texas, a lot of people think Texas, all right, it's Dallas, it's Houston. No, San Antonio, Austin, Corpus Christi, El Paso, Lubbock, Texarkana. I mean, it's amazing as you get into these states in California from San Diego to the Oregon border. You've got probably 40 uh, cities. So it's really a vast country. And as I got to know, um, Canada is a vast east to west, country itself. But there's a lot of prairies. There's a lot of what we would call fields. So there's the cities, and as you guys really got to know Canadian tours, it's a long distance from Quebec to Vancouver.
Yeah, a lot of
There's
space in between up here in Canada. The geography is not really set up for touring. I
yeah,
mean, like to your point, like we go through California, we probably play 5 shows in California. Everyone thinks about the big show in LA,
yeah,
at the sports arena, but it's the
sure,
San Bernardino and the Bakersfield and Fresno's and all of that, the San Diegos and all that that go with it, right? It's kind
yeah,
of like Texas. Everyone hears about the Dallas and the Houston show, but they're not hearing about all those other shows. You mentioned El Paso. I love going down to El Paso, right on the Mexican border, and
oh yeah,
sometimes I go over the border during the afternoon and check things out on the other side. Or, um, there's a lot of fun to be had in those states. And as you say, the geography was great because you could go in and play, 2 weeks or a week and a half worth of shows in just one state.
yes. Well, here comes September 1981. Triumph hits a huge grand slam here. It is Allied Forces, self-produced album, Metalworks. Mississauga. And of course, how can we talk about Triumph without talking about Magic Power? It is the title of the tribute album. Of course, you have Joey Belladonna from Anthrax singing that one, and also Fight the Good Fight. Nancy Wilson of Heart. No one Heart so well. I was one of the early promoters in that Bellingham, Seattle market of Dreamboat Annie, which of course was recorded in Canada in Vancouver, and I know they famously played a big show opening for Rod Stewart in Toronto that really helped kick off their Canadian buzz. What was the band feeling like now that you're all over the radio? Of course, the album reached number 23 on the Billboard Pop Albums. Magic Power hit 8, and Fight the Good Fight 18 on the U.S. mainstream chart. So now we're talking Billboard, Cashbox, Record World, R&R. I mean, you guys are giving certainly RCA something to work with. What was the feeling in the band as Allied Forces took full shape?
Well, we had a lot of fun recording it, first of all, because the whole thing was done at Metalworks. And so we were in home turf and we spent a lot of time recording it, did a lot of experiments that we'd wanted to do on earlier albums and, didn't have the time to do it. And as you say, like we were out, I remember for me, the pivotal moment that I can remember is when one interview, and I can't remember where it was exactly, but, I went on the air and he said, Gil, no, so how does it feel that, we've seen you come, with the first few albums and so on. You've come through town a few, and getting on the radio is a big thing for bands. And he said, now I feel like I'm interviewing you, and you guys are the sound of radio. So what's that? And I thought that's really interesting that we'd now had enough airplay by this time that the radio stations were looking at us and going, okay, let's check out what we're doing, as opposed to, I guess, our label having to tell them, hey, check out Triumph. Like now radio is saying, let's check out Triumph. So that was a kind of uh, a cool turning point, I guess. And at this point, we had enough albums behind us. We got enough airplay, residual airplay on multiple tracks. So the concerts were all doing great. And we were, Triumph was really on a roll at that point.
Well, Fool for Your Love, you do lead vocals as in the title track, Allied Forces. On the tribute album, you have the great Phil X, who has Triumph in his DNA himself. What was it like hearing Phil sing your song?
Well, I think he killed it. Phil, the thing with Phil is a lot of times his vocals get overlooked because he's such a great guitarist. So people focus on, that he's a guitar virtuoso, which he is. But I'll tell you what, check out Phil's vocals. Like the guy sings up a storm. And the funny thing is, the last time I was with Phil, and I actually went and heard him perform on his own.
Yeah.
And when we came off, I'm like, dude, I know you're the greatest guitar player out there, but what's with the vocals? I said, you've since we did Edge of Excess together, I said you've taken your vocals up, 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 up a notch, and so you can hear it on LA Forces. I mean, he just rips it to shreds, both on guitar and vocally, and yeah, he was really the key guy when Mike Klink, decided, he's going to put together the songs and the musicians and figure out which songs, which musicians, which parts. Phil was the very first guy that Mike Klink reached out to, and the very first track that was recorded was Allied Forces with Phil on vocals and guitar.
That is amazing. December 82 in Canada, January 83 in the US. Here comes Never Surrender. You now have David Thorner on helping co produce Metalworks again, the studio. You've got of course, the title track, which on the album here, Dean Castronova, talking about somebody gets overlooked for their vocals. Here's the drummer of Journey singing lead vocals. And you and I both know Dean is truly a lead vocalist himself. Just because you're sitting behind the kit, as you proved, doesn't mean you can't sing lead vocals. And this album, of course, hit Never Surrender hit number 2, 3, and 23 on the Billboard top rock tracks all the way. A World of Fantasy. Um, Again, you're continuing to grow your headline status across North America, and you're looking at so many of these great songs. Too Much Thinking. You're seeing lead vocals, Battle Cry, and When the Lights Go Down. What was the feeling in the band by Never Surrender?
Well, like you said, we were kind of in a really good space. Fan base was growing, and crowds were big at the arenas that we were playing at that point, and heading towards the US Festival, which was upcoming. We didn't know that yet, but just playing, getting a lot of airplay and really having a good spirit inside the band, just enjoying what was going on, and knew that we could kind of, keep doing it. And you realize when you've got a fan base and it's built and it's solid, it makes you feel good because those fans, if it wasn't for the fans, there'd be no band. It's all about, having a relationship. And we had a relationship with our fans because we went to their cities and we played for them. And, I think that's where the touring background of a band like a Triumph or like so many of the bands that we toured with at the time, whether, it's an Iron Maiden or it's a Sabbath or it's an Ozzy or Judas Priest or Scorps or whatever. Like these were bands that would go and play for the people and form those strong bonds. And I think right at that point during Never Surrender, we felt like there was this rock solid sort of bond we had with our audience that's makes it really a lot of fun to walk on stage when you know that people are there, that they're there for you, and they're ready, they're primed.
No question. I was there Sunday, May 29th, 1983, San Bernardino, Glen Helen. Wow, it was a day that I'm sure, in a sense, changed your life. You looked at your biggest crowd ever in North America, and a historic day. Obviously, Van Halen, Scorpions, Judas Priest, Ozzy, Motley Crue, and Quiet Riot. You're right in the middle there. Of course, you've got the full access with the DVD rights and the co-founder of Apple. I mean, Steve Wozniak is inviting you, announcing you on stage. I know it was a super hot day, and you probably got out of there before the once the sun went down and the wind came through that canyon. I think the temperature dropped about 50 degrees. It was, I felt sorry for those that didn't carry a little windbreaker or something along with them in the heat, because I've never felt a more radical temperature change within a couple hours. I'll put it that way. But what are your best memories of walking out on stage and seeing that crowd? I'd say a California crowd, but as I walked through the parking lot, the license plates were from all over North America.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest memory was not being able to see to the back of the audience. Um, you look out and it looks more like a city than a concert. They had massive stage, massive PA system, and then they had these massive delay towers that were, a long ways away from the downstage lip. And you look out and you'd see, and then you go pat, your eyes would go past the delay towers, and you go, there's another sea of people behind there. And then, of course, behind the hills, behind Glen Helen Park. And you just realize the magnitude of it was something you've never seen before. And I'm sure the very same, like it was Van Halen or Scorpions or whoever, they all would have said the same thing. Nobody's ever, no, none of those bands had ever played for that many people at one time. So you knew you were part of something special. Having Waz take us out on stage was really a touching, uh, moment, gesture on his part. We became buddies. He never set the US Festival up to make money, or there was no commercial intent. He was a lot of people misunderstood and thought the US stood for US, United States, as
Yeah.
opposed to us, you and me. But anybody that knows Waz knows the kind of guy he is, and he very much was trying to bring people together through music, which, as my career's progressed till today, that's my main interest is the value of music in society. And there was a beginning embryonic seed of it right there. And he was like, let's hook up, this a satellite feed to the Russians, and let's share some music and come together, as the Beatles said. So special guy, Steve Wozniak.
Yeah, a merging of music and technology, and look at how technology has become such a presence in our world, and Apple being every in practically most people's hands. Everywhere they go, they're staring at their Apple screen. Well, November 19th, 1984, here comes the one and only Thunder Seven. You have Eddie Kramer now in working with you, of course, back at Metalworks on the tribute album. You are supported here with Spellbound with the great Mickey Thomas from Jefferson Starship, an amazing voice. He's maintained it all over these years. And Follow Your Heart, Jack Blades of Night Ranger, two vocalists still quite active. Tell us about the Thunder Seven level and having Eddie Kramer in there with his Jimi Hendrix and Kiss and all his credits.
Yeah, I mean Eddie is he's been a lifelong friend as well as Mike Klink, and Eddie's like of that caliber that's the very very top echelon of producers, and of course we were always very interested in hearing stories from him about Jimi Hendrix in particular, because not only did he do all of Jimmy's albums, but he also put together his recording studio, Electric Ladyland in New York. And so when he was at Metalworks, I was picking his brain on ideas to improve Metalworks. And he was very forthcoming with great ideas, and I'd be talking about Led Zeppelin's drum sounds, because I think every drummer wants to know, about anything they can know about, Bonzo's drum sounds. And Eddie was always giving me some really cool anecdotes and tips, and uh, you know, you get him behind the board, and you know that there's a captain on the ship, that's for sure. Uh, he and Mike Klink were the two producers I've worked with that really left a lasting impression. Mike's a lot younger, so he's more our generation, and then Eddie was. At first you feel a little intimidated because of all like you say, the the artists that he's worked for, particularly Jimi Hendrix, where he just did everything, and you go, my
Yeah.
God, he's working with us now. This is incredible. Um, so it was a really great experience working with him. And he was a tough taskmaster in the studio. He doesn't like to fool around. He likes to get things done, and I learned from him. I really credit Eddie with teaching me a lot uh, about how to behave in the studio and just how the music, how you pull the best parts out of people in the studio, how what a producer really does besides just the sort of the engineering-esque skills of sound creation. So a great experience, and I love the record, and I love Never Surrender the tracks on Thunder Seven that came from the record. There was just I don't know, there wasn't one track on the album that I didn't like.
Well, August 86 brings you to Sport of Kings, and here comes Mike Clink, Tom Trumbo, Metalworks, and One on One Studios right up the street from where we are right now. This not only on the tribute album, Someone Out There, but you also have Just One Night, Jason Sheff from, of course, Chicago fame, and all of that. Talk about your first, encounter with Mr. Clink and how that has led to this tribute album.
So Mike was actually at the time, he was a younger guy and he was working as the engineer on the project. But we really didn't like the producer, didn't like the direction he was going, didn't like how he treated us. And it was the first time we'd ever had, a negative experience. It's kind of like in sports. It's like somebody in the dressing room that's just like not catching the vibe and kind of making things rough on everybody. And so we canned him. And that's how we said to Mike, hey, can we just get you to take over and do not just the engineering, but also produce? Because we love Mike. And anybody that's worked with him will testify about what a master in the studio Mike Klink is. And that was the beginning of the relationship. It's continued right to this day. Um, we're going to be seeing him in person next Friday, or at least Mike Levine is. Rick and I are going to be zooming with him, but he's become a lifelong buddy. And of course, he brought the great Guns N' Roses to Metalworks. Never forget him for that. That was another nice thing that happened. And yeah, Mike's the greatest.
What was done at One on One here in North Hollywood? Was that mixing or any overdubs or?
That was bed track recording. I really didn't like it. The It's a great studio, but I'm not a fan of big rooms for drums. A lot of people think, big room gets big sound, and it's really not true. You need room compression and some of the things that I learned from people like Mike Klink and Eddie Kramer we talked about earlier about how to get great tones and so on has nothing to do with a big orchestral room. So. I didn't like the weather, to be honest, for recording. And I know that's funny because everyone loves the weather in California. But I find like when it's all sunny outside and it's beach weather, you don't have the same work ethic. So I'm not so sure that with California weather, I guess maybe if you're there all the time. But when we're there, we're Canadians, and it it's kind of like, hey,
Yeah,
it's here for it feels
like
more like a
vacation
vacation
time,
than a job. So I think that we were better off in our own studio up here in Mississauga.
Well, it's an absolutely amazing catalog. Congratulations to you and Mike and Rick. Just an amazing, stellar career. All the awards, the accolades don't say enough. It's the songs. The songs are what we as the music lovers live on and play on a daily basis. And congratulate you on continuing Metalworks and all that you do. I want to encourage everyone to go out and get Magic Power. It is the double album, the All Star Tribute to Triumph. And Gil, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. Look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thank you so much as well. Have a great day, Jay.